بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأشرقت الأرض بنور ربها ووضع الكتاب وجيء بالنبيين والشهداء وقضي بينهم بالحق وهم لا يظلمون. ووفيت كل نفس ما عملت وهو أعلم بما يفعلون. وسيق الذين كفروا إلى جهنم زمرا حتى إذا جاءوها فتحت أبوابها حتى إذا جاءوها فتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم رسل منكم وقال لهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم رسل منكم يتلون عليكم آيات ربكم وينذرونكم لقاء يومكم هذا قالوا بلى ولكن حقت كلمة العذاب على الكافرين. قيل ادخلوا أبواب جهنم خالدين فيها فبئس مثوى المتكبرين. وسيق الذين اتقوا ربهم إلى الجنة زمرا حتى إذا جاءوا فتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين وقالوا الحمد لله الذي صدقنا وعده وقالوا الحمد لله الذي صدقنا وعده وأورثنا الأرض نتبوأ من الجنة وأورثنا الأرض نتبوأ من الجنة حيث نشاء فنعم أجر العاملين صدق الله مولانا العلي العظيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله ونبيه وصفيه وحبيبه بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حتى أتاه اليقين وتركنا على المحجة البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك فاللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في كل وقت وحين وعلى آله الأطهار وعلى أصحابه الأخيار وعلى أتباعه الأبرار إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. وبعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وإن خير الهدي هدي سيدنا ومولانا رسول الله وإن شر الأمور لمحدثاتها فكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. If you've ever purchased a device, oftentimes when you open the package there is a manual, and the manual will tell you some of the specifications of that device, and it will tell you how to use that device. And the idea is that whoever created this device, whoever put this together, has intended a certain use for it. And if you use it incorrectly, you could hurt yourself, you could cause a fire, you could cause damage, you can break the device, etc. So, and of course we rarely look at these manuals, but we know if you've been to somebody's house and you see them using something incorrectly, you say, oh, you're using this incorrectly. That's not how this device is supposed to be used. And then when you show them, and then they realize, and then it starts working, they realize, oh, yeah, now I understand that this is the way the device is supposed to be used. Or if you've called to complain, or if you've gone back to return the item, sometimes they'll ask you, did you use it the right way? Because this kind of damage maybe means that you didn't use it the right way. And if you expand that and you look at heavy industry and you look at large manufacturing, those type of equipments and devices, sometimes the user manuals, they're like binders that are this thick. And not only that, but there's an entire industry of people that translate those technical manuals in multiple languages so that the people can sell that equipment in different markets, different languages. Sometimes that's a legal requirement, etc. Why am I saying all of this? We understand intuitively that if you pick up something, you buy something, there's an intended use for that thing. So can we say, or can we ask the same question about ourselves? What is our manual? How are we to use the life that we have been given? What is the user manual that has come with our own existence? Because a lot of times people, they complain, my life is miserable, I feel there's no good in my life, all my relationships are collapsing, my kids are this, my spouse is that, my work is this, my neighbors is that. There's just sort of a total breakdown in the use of that person. And oftentimes, it's as simple as, well, how are you using your life that you have been given? What are the things that you're doing or not doing? Because for us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with a set purpose. Allah has not created all of this in vain. Allah has not created all of this for us to guess, to figure it out on our own. Allah told us what He expects of us. The Quran offers 3 answers. There's 3 points in our user manual. The first, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Allah has not created us except to worship Him. And of course, worship, there are many forms of worship. There is the worship of our prayer and our fast, there are things like that, but there are other things that are ibadah. لِيَعْبُدُونَ, so that they can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There you go, that's number 1. Number 2, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Allah praises the person who has empowered and increased their nafs, and has cursed the person who has allowed their nafs to fall. The damir in this verse is referring to a nafs. And the Quran refers to a nafs as being different types. An-nafs al-ammara bis-su', the nafs, the self that caused the bad action in Surah Yusuf. An-nafs al-lawwama, the self that blames. An-nafs al-mulhama, the nafs that is inspired, so on and so forth. So we can be different versions of ourselves. And therefore we have an obligation to be the best version of ourselves. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَهُوَ أَنْشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم فِيهَا. Allah has caused you to come to existence from the earth. He has placed you on earth and has asked of us that we develop it. وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم أي طَلَبَ مِنكُمْ عَمَارَهَا. When Allah says وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم, this means He has asked of us that we build this world, that we develop society. That's our user manual. So one of the things that I wanted to speak about today, in light of this introduction, is the importance of dhikr, of remembrance. Because dhikr is one of those concepts where when you say it, maybe people sort of, yeah, I understand what that is, but we don't oftentimes comprehend how important it is, because we need to sort of delve into the details. When you look at the Quran and when you look at the hadith literature about dhikr, it's really something that is fascinating. The Prophet ﷺ, he said the example of the person who remembers Allah versus the person who does not remember Allah is like the example of the living and the dead. The Prophet ﷺ has equated the person that remembers the usage of their life, that remembers this user manual, who recalls and remembers this, they are alive. But the person that does not, they are dead. And Allah Ta'ala, in Surah Al-Baqarah, He talks about the hearts, how the heart can be as hard as stone. The heart can be as hard as stone. But with the remembrance of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, it softens. So if you don't remember, if you're not worshiping, if you're not improving yourself, if you're not living a productive life, then don't complain when the unit is not working. You haven't done what you're supposed to do. It's so basic that the Prophet ﷺ said it's the difference between the living and the dead. And how many people are alive physically, but they are dead spiritually? Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said, النَّاسُ نِيَامُ وَإِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبَهُوا. People are asleep, and when they die, they wake up. So we don't want to be like that. We don't want to be living, but we're asleep, or living, but we are spiritually dead, not aware of the world around us. to have no feeling. So the Prophet ﷺ said this is the difference between the living and the dead. How about when you're remembering, you're praying, but still you're struggling? Things are difficult. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna likulli shay'in istiqala." The hearts is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here the Prophet ﷺ is using this metaphor, when you have a rusty piece of metal. If you have a sword, for example, and it's rusty, it's not going to cut, you have to sharpen it, you have to polish it. Or if you have a mirror and it's rusty, you can't see yourself in the mirror, you have to clean it. And to use our example in the beginning, if you have some kind of device, you have to maintain it. You can't just, drive your car and never change the oil and, never fill up gas or never put air in the tires. And you have to maintain these things. And in the pre-modern world, if you had a horse or a donkey or a riding animal, so you have to feed the animal, you have to make sure it's not going to run out of water or else it's going to die on you. You have to maintain it. So here, what is the maintenance of our life? The Prophet ﷺ said is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything has a polish, and the polish of the heart is the remembrance of Allah. Because the Prophet ﷺ also taught us when we commit a sin, we get a black spot on our heart. But when we make tawbah and we remember Allah, the spot is removed. This is like spiritual cholesterol. But if you keep going and you keep sinning and sinning and sinning, and you don't ask Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness, then your heart is going to be like that stone. And then you might, it might take you some time, but then you'll realize after several years, what am I? What's my life? Why is my life not fruitful and deep with meaning? The Prophet ﷺ also said, Allah Ta'ala also says in the Quran, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Verily, by the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the heart is comforted. Again, this is what's very interesting about Muslims in community. Whenever you see a group of Muslims and they're fighting, and then somebody wants to come up and break the fight, it's very common that the person that, he will come in and he will, physically split the people up, but then he'll say something like, remember Allah. Sallu ala Rasulillah. Send prayers on the Prophet ﷺ, because the idea is you'd be embarrassed that you hear the Prophet's name and not say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Because it triggers something in us. We remember what we forgot. That's why it's called Dhikr, because we forget. We forget about the user manual. We forget about the purpose of our existence. We forget the tools to live a good life. And it's normal that we forget. The insan, the human being, is called insan because he has forgetfulness, nisyan. There's no coincidence that the two words are related in Arabic. And the reason remembrance is called remembrance is because we have to come back to it, come back to it, come back to it. And when we come back to it, we are comforted. It doesn't mean that all of our problems will go away, we'll have no struggles, we will have no difficulties, but our heart is comforted, knowing that we are equipped to solve the problem, knowing that we have the mettle to withstand the difficulties. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Remember Allah often so that you will be successful. Successful in this world and successful in the hereafter. And that's really the point of what I want to say. Is that this is not something that we mention because it's Friday and we're supposed to talk about these type of things. But this is real advice for your life at every moment and every day. Unfortunately, we have this stereotype. The stereotype is that the religious person is the naive person, or that the religious person is somehow cut off from the world, or that the religious person is a simpleton, poor, on the verge of being like a beggar. All of our Muslim cultures now, today, they have this stereotype. Whether it's like the stammering Arabic teacher who only speaks in Fusha, no one can understand him, or whether the Modisab, whatever the word is, all of our Muslim majority cultures have this stereotype. The things that we're talking about, yeah, we agree, no one's going to deny it because we're saying Quran and Sunnah. No one's going to say that this is not right. But how do you take that and actually go out and live an active life with that? That's the key. Because this stereotype is incorrect. We need to correct the stereotype for ourselves. And it's not helpful that this stereotype carries over also into the Western world. If you watch, we all watch, TV, movies, all that shows, all that kind of stuff. The person of God is the foolish person, right? There's a big storm coming, and the priest goes outside and he just prays to Jesus that he gets gobbled up by the storm. But the scientists, the people, they're the ones that hunker down, they build the gadget and they save the day. Right? So it's emphasized that to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to remember God or Jesus or whatever, to remember things that are metaphysical is a sign somehow of stupidity. But we know from our own history that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't a stupid person. He was the most intelligent of people. He was a strategic thinker. He was a military leader. He was a politician. He was a judge. He was a mufti. And if you look at the things that he accomplished after he received his message, for those 23, 24 years, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's impossible that somebody could have done that without the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here I'm talking about worldly accomplishments. I'm not talking about the revelation of the Quran and the teaching of the Sahaba, all the feel-good stuff. I'm talking about power and wealth and the conquest of Mecca without shedding blood, the defeat of the Romans without shedding blood in the Battle of Tabuk, all of the delegations, all of Arabia succumbing to him, the complete annihilation of polytheism, which was so embedded for Arabian society for centuries that in just 23 years, it was completely eradicated and extinct. By the time that the Prophet ﷺ, in his final Hajj, in his khutbah of the final Hajj, he said that this is the end of polytheism, and it was true, and it is true until today. If you look at these worldly things, this is the example of the person that is remembering their user manual, because the user manual is not just saying stay in the mosque and pray and remember Allah, put on the sibha over your neck and then walk around, like the dervish, just mope around barefoot in the city and beg and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about somebody who is fully engaged with their worldly affairs and that their heart is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaykh al-Akbar Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi radiallahu anhu, he narrates the story in his Futuhat, and he says, when I was in Mecca, the strangest thing I saw was there was an old man hanging by the curtains of the Kaaba. So I was intrigued, I saw this sight, he's crying. So I got nearer and he was asking Allah only for dunya. All of his dunya problems. I said, okay. And then that same day I was in the marketplace and there was a young man selling, buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and selling, but his tongue was constant with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So and I've said this before, if you look at that, the CCTV, if you looked at those images of Mecca and you saw the guy hanging by the Kaaba, you'd be like, oh, I want to go to Mecca. I want to hang by the kiswa of the Kaaba, right? And then the camera pans out, and then you see the big mega shopping center. Astaghfirullah. That's what Muhyiddin al-Arabi is talking about. He's saying that person that's fully engaged with the worldly life, earning an income, developing this world, وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُمْ فِيهَا, that person is completely connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That to be a person of remembrance, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often and frequently, is not to cut off your life from your worldly life. Because that's not the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The three companions, they came to visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they were hanging out, in the common area, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam overheard them. And the first companion said, I decided I'm never going to get married. I'm going to be single and celibate my whole life. And then the second one said, I decided every night I'm going to stay up all night long every night and pray. Tahajjud. And then the third one said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to fast every single day of the year. And then the Prophet said, these are all like if you came and you said, I fast every day of the year, you would also just like super Muslim. Not realizing that this is disliked in the Sharia, it's makruh. And some would even say it's haram. Or if you see your child sleeping all day, like, well, why are you sleeping all day? So I was praying tahajjud all night. Right? But the Prophet ﷺ, he came in, he says, as for me, I will marry and have a family. I will sleep some of the night and wake some of the night. I will fast some of the days and not fast some of the days. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. And whoever violates my sunnah is not from me. We are talking about the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Sahaba were completely engaged. All the battles that they fought against them, building a state, building a legal system, dealing with the hypocrites inside Medina, dealing with the Romans and the Persians and Musaylim al-Kadhdhab and the Qurayshis and the Yemen, all of these pressures. They weren't whirling around in the mosque, walking the streets of Medina barefoot begging. No, they were completely engaged, but their hearts were connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's our tradition. Our tradition of remembrance is that it's something that's internal, that we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we forget. So what is something practical that we can take away from this? One easy dose of remembrance that you can do is during the day one time, and during the afternoon or the evening one time, is to say Astaghfirullah 100 times, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad 100 times, and La ilaha illallah 100 times. And there are hadiths for all of these things. Now, how much time is that going to take you? It will take you maximum 5 to 7 minutes. But if you do this every day, twice a day, you will feel different. You will be a person of remembrance. Your heart will be connected. And then when you forget to do it, which will happen, you will feel bad that you forgot. And then you say, you know what, I'm never going to forget again. I'm going to do it again. And then after a month or 2 months or 3 months, you're going to come and be like, is there anything else I can do? I do it takes me like a minute. Is there anything else I can say? Yeah, I'm going to do this, add that. All the while going along with your life. Because there's no end to the remembrance, because we are always going to forget. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu idhkurullaha dhikran kathira wa sabbihuhu bukratan wa asila. Oh, you will believe, remember Allah a lot. Allah doesn't say pray a lot. Allah doesn't say fast a lot. Allah doesn't say give your zakat a lot. But when it comes to dhikr, He says do it a lot. And in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, make dhikr until other people say that you are crazy. Meaning every time they look at you, they think you're speaking to yourself. Meaning that there's no end to how much you can do this. But if you do this little packet twice a day, every day, you will feel different. You will feel different, you will feel alive and not dead, as the Prophet ﷺ said, أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. فاللهم صل وسلم وبارك على قدوتنا وقرة أعيننا سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Just a few announcements before the dua. We have a death in the community, Brother Fawzi al-Bahtiti, who died in New York. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept his soul into paradise, to make him from the people of the right, to cleanse his sins, to make his grave a garden of the gardens of paradise, inshallah, and to help his family in this difficult time and need. We're also asking dua for Brother Ghulam Sarwar Jahangir, who is in the ICU. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a speedy recovery for him, and Allah make it easy for his family, inshallah. All of those that we don't know about that are sick, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's shifa. And all of those who have passed, we ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmah. And on this day, we especially want to remember our brothers and sisters that are facing grave difficulties in Syria, and our Kurdish brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters in Kashmir, our brothers and sisters from the Rohingya, and all of those that are displaced. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them comfort, to make their way easy, and to allow us to help them, inshallah. Two brief announcements tonight. The halaqah will be at 7:30 normal, and then Sunday 6:30 in the morning. So the normal schedule for those programs, inshallah. With that, we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our hands raised, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of His blessed names and all of His blessed attributes to make us people of remembrance. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to comfort our hearts and to comfort our souls. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take us to Him in the best of ways. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on our parents and on all those who have passed before us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and protect our children, to bless and protect our businesses, to bless and protect our centers of learning. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our teachers and to give them long life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst the people of the right and not amongst the people of the left. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst the people of the Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our prayer and our fasting and our charitable giving and our zakat and all our devotional acts to Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the sunnah in the best of ways, to make us people of the sunnah and to make us people of the jama'ah. Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt. Allahumma barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif anna sharra ma qadayt. فإنك سبحانك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك ولا يضل من وليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت. اللهم تقبل صلاتنا وصيامنا وقيامنا وركوعنا وسجودنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم انقلنا من دائرة سخطك إلى دائرة رضاك، وافتح علينا فتوح العارفين بك، واحشرنا تحت لواء نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم القيامة. اللهم اسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة ماء لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا، ثم ادخلنا الجنة بغير حساب ولا سابقة عقاب ولا عتاب، ومتعنا بالنظر إلى وجهك الكريم في جنات الخلد يا رحيم. فاللهم ارحم حينا وميتنا وحاضرنا وغائبنا، وارفع أيدي الأمم عنا وأقمنا بالحق وأقم الحق بنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ارزقنا اتباع المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم في الأقوال والأفعال والأحوال. اللهم ارزقنا اتباع المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم في الأقوال والأفعال والأحوال. اللهم ارزقنا اتباع المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم في الأقوال والأفعال والأحوال يا أرحم الراحمين، يا أرحم الراحمين، يا أرحم الراحمين. فرج عن المسلمين، ويا غياث المستغيثين أغثنا، ويا دليل الحائرين ارشدنا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصل اللهم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten your lines. Remember, overflow prayer space in the basement for the tents, inshallah. Sallu salat and muwadda praise if this is your last prayer. Allahu Akbar. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.